Welcome to Danger, the channel where we dive into the world's most chilling true crime stories. Please like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get notified every time we post something. Rachel Rose Burkheimer was born on January 16, 1984, and grew up in Marysville, Washington, on the Tulalip Reservation. She was described by those who knew her as a caring, friendly, and outgoing young woman who loved spending time with her family and friends. Rachel had recently graduated from high school and, like many young adults her age, was looking forward to building a future for herself. She had dreams, ambitions, and a close relationship with the people around her. Those who knew her often said that she was loyal, trusting, and always willing to help others, even when they did not deserve her kindness. Unfortunately, those very qualities would ultimately place her in the company of people who did not have her best interests at heart. During her late teenage years, Rachel began dating a man named John Anderson. Their relationship was unstable and marked by frequent breakups and reconciliations. Anderson associated himself with a group of young men who referred to themselves as the Northwest Mafia. Despite the intimidating name, this was not an organized mafia family like those portrayed in movies. Instead, it was a loose-knit group involved in criminal activities such as drug dealing, theft, intimidation, and violence throughout Snohomish County, Washington. Members of the group sought power and respect through fear, often boasting about their criminal behavior and demanding unquestioning loyalty from one another. Rachel eventually decided to distance herself from Anderson and ended the relationship, but Anderson reportedly struggled to accept that it was over. According to investigators, he became increasingly jealous and possessive, viewing Rachel's independence as a personal betrayal. In the weeks leading up to Rachel's disappearance, tensions within the Northwest Mafia began to grow. Rumors circulated among the group that Rachel had been talking about their illegal activities and that she had become an informant for law enforcement or had shared information with rival drug dealers. These rumors spread quickly, fueled by paranoia and suspicion. Later investigations found no credible evidence that Rachel had informed the police or betrayed anyone. Nonetheless, several members of the group accepted the rumors as fact without verifying them. Prosecutors later argued that fear of being exposed, combined with Anderson's anger over the failed relationship, created a dangerous situation in which Rachel became the target of a violent conspiracy. Rather than questioning the rumors, those involved allowed fear and loyalty to override reason, leading to decisions that would change many lives forever. On the evening of September 23, 2002, Rachel believed she was meeting people she knew. She had no reason to think she was walking into a carefully planned trap. Instead of spending a normal evening with acquaintances, she was lured to a house where several members of the Northwest Mafia had gathered. Once she arrived, she was prevented from leaving. Prosecutors later explained that multiple individuals were present at different stages of the events that unfolded. Over several hours, Rachel repeatedly tried to understand why she had been accused of betraying the group. According to witness testimony presented during the trials, she insisted that she had done nothing wrong and pleaded with those around her to believe her. Despite having opportunities to help her or alert the authorities, several people remained silent or actively participated in keeping her from escaping. Fear of retaliation, loyalty to the group, and a desire to protect themselves appeared to outweigh any sense of moral responsibility. As the night progressed, members of the group decided to move Rachel from the house to a more isolated location. She was driven to a remote gravel pit near Gold Bar, Washington, in the Cascade foothills. Prosecutors argued that the trip demonstrated planning and intent rather than a spontaneous act of violence. Once they arrived at the gravel pit, Rachel's life was taken by several members of the group. Authorities later stated that the murder was the result of a coordinated conspiracy involving multiple participants rather than the actions of a single individual. Afterward, her body was buried in a shallow grave in an attempt to conceal the crime and prevent investigators from discovering what had happened. Those responsible left the area believing they had successfully hidden their actions, unaware that their own conflicting stories and the cooperation of later witnesses would eventually unravel the truth. Rachel's family quickly realized something was terribly wrong when they were unable to contact her. Days passed without anyone hearing from her, which was unusual because Rachel regularly stayed in touch with her loved ones. Her family began searching for her themselves, contacting friends and anyone who might have seen her. When those efforts produced no answers, she was officially reported missing on September 27, 2002. Detectives from the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office launched an investigation, interviewing friends, family members, and known associates. As investigators looked deeper into Rachel's social circle, they noticed inconsistencies in the stories being told by several people connected to the Northwest Mafia. These inconsistencies raised suspicions that more people knew about Rachel's disappearance than they were willing to admit. On October 4, 2002, investigators made a heartbreaking discovery when Rachel's body was found buried in a gravel pit east of Gold Bar. The Snohomish County Medical Examiner later confirmed her identity, bringing a devastating end to the family's desperate search for answers. Rachel's father publicly expressed his grief, describing the killing as completely senseless and struggling to understand how so many people could participate in or witness such a crime without stepping forward sooner. News of the case spread quickly throughout Washington state, shocking residents because of the young age of the victim and the number of people believed to have been involved. The investigation soon transformed from a missing person case into one of the largest homicide investigations in Snohomish County's history. As detectives continued gathering evidence, they uncovered a complex web of lies, conflicting statements, and attempts to conceal the truth. Some suspects initially denied knowing anything about Rachel's disappearance, while others tried to minimize their involvement. However, as investigators collected physical evidence and interviewed witnesses repeatedly, several individuals eventually began cooperating with prosecutors. Their testimony allowed detectives to reconstruct the timeline of Rachel's final hours and identify those responsible for planning and carrying out the crime. Prosecutors argued that the murder was motivated by false accusations, misplaced loyalty, and a culture of violence within the Northwest Mafia. The investigation ultimately revealed that many of the participants had acted out of fear, believing they would face consequences from other group members if they refused to take part or report what they had witnessed. In total, 8 men were convicted for their roles in Rachel Burkheimer's kidnapping and murder. Those convicted included John Anderson, John Whitaker, James Hayward, Michael Phelps, Joseph Schillmiller, Tony Frampton, Michael Pruitt, and Jared Dillard. Their convictions varied depending on their individual actions and level of participation. Some were found guilty of aggravated first-degree murder, while others were convicted of kidnapping, conspiracy, or related offenses. Several received life sentences without the possibility of parole. Over the years, some convictions were appealed on procedural grounds. One notable example involved John Whitaker, whose conviction was temporarily overturned because of a legal issue unrelated to the evidence itself. He was later retried and convicted again, meaning the overall findings of the case remained largely unchanged. Rachel Burkheimer's murder also had a lasting impact on Washington state law. During the investigation and subsequent court proceedings, prosecutors discovered that several people had known Rachel was in grave danger yet failed to contact the police or emergency services. Public outrage over this failure prompted lawmakers to introduce new legislation. The result was a law commonly referred to as Rachel's Law, which created the offense of failing to summon assistance for someone suffering serious physical harm under certain circumstances. The law was intended to encourage bystanders to seek emergency help when they know someone's life is at risk, reinforcing the principle that choosing to do nothing can also have serious consequences. More than 2 decades after her death, Rachel Burkheimer's case continues to be remembered as one of the most significant criminal cases in Washington state. It is frequently studied because it involved numerous participants, extensive investigations, lengthy court proceedings, and important legal reforms. Beyond the courtroom, the case serves as a powerful reminder of the devastating effects of rumors, peer pressure, misplaced loyalty, and violence. Rachel's family has continued to honor her memory by speaking publicly about the importance of accountability, encouraging young people to avoid criminal influences, and reminding communities that every individual has a responsibility to protect those in danger. Although nothing can undo the tragedy that occurred in September 2002, Rachel's story continues to educate others about the consequences of violence and the importance of making courageous choices, even when doing so is difficult. Thank you for watching. If you want more factual and respectful true crime content, please like, subscribe, and share. And as always, stay safe.